You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. This is episode 34 of season 3. The Cubs sweep the Stros. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on the socials. Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook, or email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. Well, Crawly, another day to fly the W over at the Federal Landmark. How you doing?
Man, I was at the game last night. I got to see a W.
Saw some pictures, yeah.
Yeah, out in the bleachers. It was cold, but you know what, man? When you win, it doesn't matter. And seeing the Cubs sweep the Astros after so many years of just the Astros being so dominant, this was a fun one.
Absolutely, it was fun. It was today's game was really interesting. Let's walk through them like we always do, one at a time. We'll go back to the game against the Astros. JP France on the mound for the Stros and Jordan Wicks on the hill for our Cubs.
Yeah, the Astros changed their probables. They moved France up to pitch Tuesday instead of Wednesday, but that didn't work out too well for him. In the bottom of the first, Ian Happ double and Cody Bellinger hit his 5th home run of the season to put the Cubs up 2-0. Then with 2 outs, Christopher Morel walked. I think he's coming around soon. I think Morel's about to bust out of this thing here. Dansby singles.
Let's hope.
I got a feeling. And Mike Tauchman, the Palatine Pounder, hit a 3-run blast to make it 5-0. That was Tauchman's first home run of the season. Jordan Wicks did exactly what he said he needed to do on the last podcast. He attacked the hitters, didn't walk batters. He was efficient. And with this pitch count low, he was able to go deep into the game.
Absolutely right. The no walks was huge, right?
Right. After giving up a 2-out single in the first, Jordan sat down the next 8 Astro hitters. Unfortunately, with 1 out in the 4th, Kyle Tucker hit one deep to center that Cody Bellinger lost in the lights. And instead of an out, it counts as a double. Dustin, you know how much I hate that. It's like if you should have the ball, if you lose it in the sun or the lights, that should be an error. I'm sorry.
Should be an error, right? Should be an error. No doubt. No doubt. You're not going to get any argument here on that one.
So that happens. Counts a double. After getting Bregman to ground out, Yanir Diaz doubled to deep center. Cody got to the ball. It hit off his glove and popped out as he slammed against the brick wall. And the Astros were on the board as the Cubs still led 5-1. But that brick wall and Cody Bellinger, that's an issue we're going to have to talk about in a little bit.
Right. But can we talk about that for a little bit right this second?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
Now, slammed against the brick wall. Did they not do a good job showing replay on that? I mean, the ball hits off his glove. It then bounces on the wall. Then he kind of touches the wall. Then he comes up with the ball. And if you turned away for a second, you almost thought that he tipped it back to himself, but it did hit the wall. I mean, I thought there was some other play that I missed. I didn't think that was the play because he stays in the game.
Yeah, he stayed in the game, and he didn't think it was a big deal at the time. He made a joke that night. You know, you better check the wall, see how it's doing.
Right. I like the little jab at the wall. Right.
So I mean, you know, it's you know how baseball is. Sometimes it just freak injuries occur, and this is just going to go down as one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, right. They've been bit by a couple of these types of things. But okay, let's keep moving along.
Yeah, they got another run in the 5th on a Jake Meyer solo home run to make it 5-2. Those were the only 2 runs Wicks allowed as he pitched his first quality start of the season. 6 innings pitched, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits, 4 Ks. And all caps.
Yes.
No walks. If Belly didn't lose that light ball in the lights, it would have been 1 run on 4 hits. Leiter and Almonte finished it up without getting a run. The Cubs loaded the bases in the 6th with 1 out, but only scored 1 run on a Nico ground out to make it 6-2. And then Mike Tauchman hit his 2nd home run. Both of them were Oppo Tacos to make it 7-2. And that's how the game would end. But Dustin, as great as the game was, you always love beating the Astros like a garbage can, 7-2. But Bellinger come out of the game in the 7th with his ribs bothering him. You know, that was the frustrating thing, you know, that you're just sitting there going to yourself, man, you know, just what happened? You know,
you were crossing your fingers saying you hope that wasn't what it was, but unfortunately that's what it was.
Do you remember when in 2016, when Kyle Schwarber, it was like that first week he hurt his leg and you were just hoping like, okay, maybe it's not that bad. He was kind of walking off, you know, with a little bit of help. And Then you found out he was out for the year.
Yeah, but I mean that kind of looked bad, right? I mean, just if you're comparing those two instances, that actually looked bad. Where I didn't think, I thought there was something else that happened that we didn't catch.
I think when you're talking about the cold and a brick wall, and they're showing it in slow motion, right? And so you could see when he goes into the wall, it jostles him.
So what do you think? Put some padding on the wall and let the ivy grow through it, or what?
It's just a freak injury. I'm not changing anything for that.
Okay, but, I'm just checking. It was topic of conversation today on the Molly and Haw show for about 30 seconds.
They've already changed enough around Wrigley. I don't want it to be messed around with anymore.
Right,
but
you're done with all the changes. Okay, I understand.
Cody had an 8-game winning streak and he was 5 for 14 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. So you just hate to lose it, Dustin, because he was just getting warmed up. He was just getting hot.
Yeah, he was just getting hot. Yep.
So frustrating, but that takes us to game 2, Jameson Taillon versus Spencer Arrighetti. Now, we talked about the pitching injuries plaguing the Astros in the last episode. Arrighetti was called up on Sunday. He's a 2021 draft pick by the Astros. He pitched 2 games for the Astros coming into the game for the Cubs. He gave up 7 runs in 3 innings against a strong Royals team, but did better in a second start against the Braves. He went 4 innings pitch and gave up 2 runs on 4 hits. And then he was sent back to the minors. So this was his 3rd career start. And the Cubs countered with Jameson Taillon making his 2nd start of the season. And Dustin, I'm at the game. The Cubs get to Arrighetti right away. Nico Horner and Ian Happ singled to put runners at the corners. Michael Busch with a sac fly to make it 1-0. Great at bat. He was down 0-2, fought back to 2-2, and he got the run across, which is, making contact, right? Christopher Morel walked, and then Dansby Swanson hit a 3-run blast to left field, and the Cubs were up 4-0, feeling good. The Astros are awful in the first inning. They have given up more first inning runs than games played. So
wow, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah.
That's some stat. I mean, that's almost like White Sox-ish with their 22nd loss earlier today.
Right. And so the Astros didn't get their first hit off Jameson Taillon until the 3rd inning, but he ran into some bad luck. He gave up a leadoff single to John Singleton, and then he walked Victor Caratini. Jake Myers bunted to move the runners over, but the throw from Taillon popped out of Busch's glove, and the Astros were on the board 4-1 on the error was charged to Busch.
Yep.
He got Jose Altuve to strike out for the first big out, and runners at the corner, but Alex Bregman hit one that went off Taillon's glove. Nico tried to barehand it after the deflection. Another run scored, and the Cubs lead was cut in half, 4-2. The worst part is, Dustin, if Taillon doesn't try to catch it, Nico's right perfectly positioned for a double play to get out of that inning. It would have been 4-1, but
yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple of pitcher plays in this series, and sometimes you wonder, should they coach the guys to just let the balls go through? You don't need an injury. You don't need anybody tumbling. And, these infielders seem to have a better feel sometimes for it than the pitchers.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, the infielder is going to make the play. It happened today against the Astros. The same thing happened to the Astros,
Right.
So Taillon would strike out Yordan Alvarez and get Kyle Tucker to fly out 10 the threat. But after that first big inning, Dustin, I'm thinking they're going to knock Arrighetti out of the game. He settled down. The Cubs didn't do much. Canario singled in the 2nd. Morel singled in the 3rd. The Cubs loaded the bases in the 4th with 2 out, and Arrighetti's day was done. And Sean Dubin came into the game and got Ian Happ to strike out swinging. So Arrighetti went 3.2 innings, gave up 4 runs on 7 hits, 2 walks, but 7 Ks. But the Astros bullpen shut the Cubs offense down as the Cubs had only 1 base runner from the 5th through the 8th inning. A Mike Tauchman single in the 7th that was immediately wiped out by an Ian Happ double play. So Dustin, this one's getting me nervous because it's one of those games where score a bunch early and then nothing else,
Right. Those are the kinds you hate. You got to hang on for dear life. You got to go to the pen. Everybody's got to work their magic.
Now I'm looking at Jameson Taillon. He looks strong again. Like I said, 5.2 innings. He gave up 2 runs. Only one of them earned because of the Busch error on 7 hits, 2 walks, and 4 Ks. He got the first 2 outs in the 6th, but Victor Caratini, who I think is making it his life's goal to torture the Cubs no matter who he plays for, he doubled, and Taillon was through, and Counsell called on the beleaguered reliever, Adbert Alzolay. And Dustin, I thought I heard you cussing all the way from the suburbs on that.
Yeah, it's just I didn't understand. I mean, I'm not saying that Adbert Alzolay should be put out to the Iowa Cubs or the Tennessee Smokies or the South Bend Cubs, anything like that. But wait a minute. Now, so we went from giving him the ball for a 4-out save to coming in the 6th. I don't get it. I mean, somebody's got to explain it to me. And what happens is when it ends up not mattering because the Cubs went on to win this game, the Cubs sweep the Astros. We're not giving away the story. Like, it doesn't get brought up, but I'm curious.
Well, I thought I heard you cursing even louder when Alzolay hit the first batter. He faced Jake Myers with a pitch to put the tie.
No, that was Tommy Hotovy. That was Tommy Hotovy you heard from the dugout.
But Dustin, I mean, I think the thing is, and I think Counsell knows it, is somehow, some way they got to get this guy jump started. He has to be a part of this team. And for whatever reason, I don't know how much of it is physical. I'm sure there's that component. We talked about his pitches not really getting as much horizontal movement, and how much of it is in between the ears. But he's got to be able, they're going to have to count on them. So I think Craig Counsell's a guy that plays the long game, and that's what, he's hoping that Alzolay could get out of it without any damage and hopefully just get a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it should have been confidence building at the end of the day.
Right. And luckily Alzolay got Altuve to fly out to end the threat. He came out in the 7th and got Alex Bregman to fly out. And Counsell called on Luke Little to face a pair of lefties in Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker. Little controversy, Dustin.
Yeah.
Luke came out and
these always make me laugh, these things.
Right. They're checking for the sticky substances. They check the hat, they check the inside the glove and the forearm and stuff. But the umpire noticed that Luke had an American flag patch on the glove and there's some white on it. So the ump told him he had to swipe it out for a different glove because they didn't want anything that's a distraction. So they don't want any white really on the glove to affect
Now, do you
hitter.
think does the umpire notice that and get involved immediately? Or do you think that the Astros bench is chirping about it? How do you think that goes down?
No, I don't. I honestly think because it's not like he threw a pitch yet or they had seen it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I just wondered, well, he had thrown the warm-up pitches, right? At least that probably.
I'm trying to remember exactly.
I kind of walked away. I kind of walked away for a second and came back and I heard them talking about it. I wasn't quite sure how it, went down.
I think what ends up happening is that in that situation, I think they saw the glove first. I don't think any of the Astros said anything. It was just something that you don't see usually on a glove. And so that was it. So they're like, okay,
that was the indicator.
That's my understanding. But, it's funny because Luke Little tweeted this out later. Proud to be an American. Go Cubs go, with Hulkamania, with Hulk Hogan playing the guitar, the American flag guitar.
I love
the
that.
Giant American flag.
I love that. I love when
guys, let's not make this a big deal. This is not, the umpires don't hate America. This is just something that they're very careful to do. They don't want the other team complaining that there's an advantage. I know people are going to try to make a big deal out of it, but it truly is not a big deal. So I would say let's not make.
All right, nothing to see here. Move along. Okay, you don't need to see any identification. Move along.
Mark Leiter Jr. comes into the game to the 8th. He gave a back-to-back singles, a force out by John Singleton, put runners at first and third with one out when Cubs killer Victor Caratini hit a line drive. Looked like it was going to score a run, but Christopher Morel made a leaping catch to save a run. Leiter got Jake Myers to strike out to end the thread. He's yelling. And just like we talked about in the last episode, Dustin, Hector Neris would come on to close out the game against his former team. And the first battery phase, Jose Altuve crushed one into the bleachers to make it a 1-run game, 4-3. But that's how it would end, with Neris getting Bregman to ground out, Alvarez to strike out, and Tucker to line out to end the game, 4-3. The Cubs were out hit, Dustin, by the Astros 10-8. But Houston was 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position and left 10 men on base. So every now and then, Dustin, it's good that it happens to the other side.
Yeah, you're never going to win like that. That's for sure. But that one was a little too close for comfort after the Cubs jumped out to that 4-0 lead in the first inning.
Yeah, and so that takes us to game 3. The Cubs are going for the sweep. It is future Hall of Famer Justin Verlander going up against Javier Assad. Dustin, PCA got his first start of the 2024 season against the future Hall of Famer. PCA was 4 years old, 2 months and 23 days when Justin made his first career start at Wrigley Field in 2006.
Isn't that amazing? That is amazing.
Verlander also started at Wrigley in 2012 when the opposing starter, Javier Assad, was only 12 years old. So time flies, Dustin, time flies. But with all those weird stats, you knew it'd be a weird start to the game. Jose Altuve leads off. He hits a foul ball that breaks his bat and almost impales Nick Madrigal, who's running for his life. The ball was catchable, but it lands untouched. Then Altuve got a new bat and hit a single up the middle to Nico Horner with an exit velocity of 57 miles per hour. And the speedy Altuve, he's always hustling, Dustin.
Right.
He beats it out. And then Alex Bregman singled to put runners at the corners, and Yordan Alvarez hit a sac fly to make it 1-0. And this is when you and I are texting. The Cubs load the bases with a single by Nico and 2 walks by Bush by Tauchman and Ian Happ. But
Right.
Michael Bush and Swanson both struck out, and Madrigal lined out to end the threats. But the Cubs did make Verlander throw 39.
And you were very observant on that. They really jacked up that pitch count in that inning, no doubt about it.
Right. And so from the 2nd through the 5th, Javier Assad mowed down the Astros. He just gave up 1 walk. Ran into a little trouble in the 6th, but again, it was all cheap stuff. With 1 out in the 6th, Alex Bregman hit one that landed right in between Nico, Bush, and Tauchman. One of those perfectly placed balls that just got past the infield. Assad got Yordan Alvarez to fly out for the 2nd out, and then Kyle Tucker hit an infield single that just barely stayed fair. It went off the glove of Michael Bush, like just off the tip of the glove, and Assad's day was done. He went 5 2/3 inning, gave up 4 hits, 2 infield singles, Dustin, and one that just got past the infield. He gave up 1 run on 5 Ks with just 1 walk. And Hayden Wesneski came on to finish the inning. But Dustin, I mean, you're talking about it's a game of inches. He almost had another quality start. There's no way you can take Assad out of the rotation at this point.
Not right now. Nope, not right now. I mean, you can if it's Justin Steele, right? I mean, somebody's eventually going to have to take it out of this rotation. Somebody's going. When Justin Steele's coming back, and Justin Steele's going right back in where he belongs, right? So somebody's got to come out. And let's hope that somebody isn't somebody that's hurt.
Right. Unfortunately, the Cubs offense, other than Nico and Mike Tauchman, looked awful for the first half of the game. In the first inning, the Cubs loaded the base with no outs, couldn't score, right? We talked about that. In the third, Nico double and Tauchman walked. You had 2 on and no outs, and the Cubs couldn't score. Then in the bottom of the 5th with 1 out, Nico singled and Tauchman walked again, and they couldn't score. So from the 1st to the 5th, the only hitter to reach base other than Nico and Tauchman was that Ian Happ walk in the 1st. Everyone else was 0 but the one thing the team did do is elevate Verlander's pitch count. We talked about that massive first inning, and he threw 95 pitches in just his 2nd start back from injury in 4.1 innings. He didn't give up a run. He gave up 3 hits, all of them to Nico Horner, 3 walks, all of them to Mike Tauchman, and had 7 Ks. So
all or nothing with him right now, right?
Right. It was just those 2 guys with the entire Cubs offense. So with Verlander out and Nico and Tauchman, on in the 5th, he was replaced by Rafael Montero. Now, Rafael Montero gets the next 2 outs, but then he's going to come back in the bottom of the 6th, and Dansby Swanson starts it off. He leads off with a single, steals second base. Nick Madrigal singles on a ground ball to second. That was the one that was deflected by Montero. So if he would have let that go, it would have advanced the runner, but instead the runner scores because of that deflection, and Madrigal's safe at first. Now, unfortunately, Miguel Amaya would fly out into a force out right after Kyle Tucker, but it was one of those things where it was kind of a goofy play. The ball is up and Tucker just cannot make the play, and so the run scores, but Nick Madrigal's in no man's land because he's thinking that Tucker's going to catch it. He doesn't, and Tucker guns it right to second. So Amaya's at first, Madrigal's out at second, and so the game is tied at 1. And then Brian Abreu comes on to replace Montero. Wild pitch advances Amaya to second, but it doesn't matter because Pete Crow-Armstrong, in his first start of the season, hits his first home run at Wrigley Field to right center, 3-1. The Cubs take the lead just like that.
Yeah, pretty good for your first big league hit. Now, of course, you would have liked it to have come sooner, but pretty good way to get your first big league hit and your first big league home run all at the same times, and do it at Wrigley Field, and it ends up being the game-winning hit.
Wesneski, though, too. How about him? Wesneski is back. 2.1 innings, 0 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, and 1 K.
Painting the corners, Crawly. It might have been a little help from the umpire, but painting the corners.
I just thought he looked locked in. I wasn't thrilled that Neris came into the game in the 9th. I'll tell you that, because I thought like they were not picking up Wisniewski at all.
Right, but I think they want to get, this is all signs point to Hector Neris trying to become the closer. So that's what they're trying to do. They need to put him in there. He needs to get used to it. He needs to be able to do this consecutive days, right? It's a day game, coming off the night. So this is part of the gig. So let's see if you can do it. So far,
a little nerve-wracking there, Dustin,
right?
Because
of course it did, because that's. I mean, name the Cubs closer that was just lights out and you never had to worry about it. I mean, it's just like the history of the Cubs.
Back-to-back walks in the 9th, the 3-1 lead, the tying runs at first base, the winning runs at home, but Neris is able to get out of it. The Cubs are able to sweep. Dustin, I do have a couple thoughts though here about this series. Is that the injuries plaguing this team are difficult. Houston's got them. We're going to talk about Boston. Boston has them. A lot of injuries, but I just want people to understand that baseball is different than a lot of sports. I know you're excited for the NFL draft tonight and Caleb Williams coming to the Bears. I know people were very excited to see Connor Bedard on the Hawks, and even in basketball, any other sport, you can come instantly into the league and make a difference. Baseball is unique in that a lot of times it takes years to get to the major leagues. And once you get there, it's hard to stay there. And you're going to see these young players, whether it's PCA, whether it's Canario, whether it's Bush, whether it's Matt Mervis, who had a tough, series. These guys are going to go through their ups and downs, and it doesn't mean they're bums or they need to go back to Iowa or this, that, or the other. Sometimes it's just trying to figure it out. So I would just say, have patience as these young guys are trying to work their way through it. I saw PCA in the minors. Okay. I've seen a lot of these guys, Wisniewski. I've seen, go ahead and just go down the list. I've seen pretty much every top 30 prospect in the Cubs system. And the reason they're top 30 prospects, they're really good, but that doesn't mean they're going to succeed, but you have to give them a chance. And if you're going to sit there and boo them at the field or piss and moan about them on whatever platform you choose to, just keep in mind, man, that these guys are trying to do their best and give them a little time to get their feet wet. This is a difficult thing to do, to have to go up against Justin Verlander, future Hall of Famer, when you're just up from AAA. I mean, just give it some time, man. That's all I'm saying.
Right. I agree. You have to give it some time, but it's hard, right? We're fans and it means we're fanatical and we want things to happen right now, right damn now.
I wish it worked that easy. And you, like I said, every now and then, for every Ronald Acuna you see, there's 100 other guys that either struggle but then figure it out, or they struggle and they don't. And that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely right. Those are really good observations from you, Crawly, on this series. And boy, if you would have told me that the Astros were going to have the type of record that they have right now, I would have said not a chance. I mean, very interesting. We talked about it as we previewed this podcast about how the skipper for the Astros is somebody that was in the running for the gig when they went ahead and gave it to David Ross instead. And I think he thought he was walking into a ready-made team. Well, not so much. The only team in the American League, Crawly, right now who has a worse record than the Astros, the White Sox. This is the Fly the W670 podcast. It's season 3. It's episode 34. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. If you feel like it, drop Crawly and I one of those 5-star reviews in this segment. We continue our series Down on the Farm, looking at the various Cub minor league affiliates. And in this edition, Crawly's talking to Mick Gillispie, the broadcaster for the Double-A defending champion Tennessee Smokies, to look at a team that has 4 of the top 100 prospects on their roster.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, we continue our Down on the Farm feature with your Double-A broadcaster for the Tennessee Smokies, the defending champion, Tennessee Smokies.
I'm going to grab my ring. Keep going.
Go. The one and only, the legendary, the often imitated, never duplicated, Mick Gillispie. Mick, how you doing, buddy?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. It's off to a really fun season. We got blown out the other day, and I got to work, and some lady, we'll call her Karen, was complaining about the way that on our broadcast with us being beaten 15-2, we talked about the 999 challenge, hot dogs and beer. And I love it. Like, if Karen's coming after me, that is the perfect thing to come after me for, because I'm going to talk hot dogs and beer when we're down 15-2, you know?
Yeah. What do you honestly, what does she want to hear? I guess play-by-play of a blowout game. But honestly,
I should play a clip of it for you. It's so funny.
Mick, I don't see too many blowout games in your future. The Tennessee Smokies have some of the most loaded teams in all of minor league baseballs, right? The Cubs in their system have 6 top 100 prospects, but 4 of them are with you in Tennessee. You got Cade Horton, number 24, Matt Shaw, number 50, Kevin Alcantara, 60, and James Triantos at 68. And that doesn't include 2 of the guys that just missed out in Moises Ballesteros and Michael Arias. I know you guys won the championship last year, but this has got to, rank up there with a team that's stacked with talent. That doesn't mean you're going to win it all again, but on paper, this looks like one of the best teams you've probably had a chance to call.
I'll say this. The last 3 years have been phenomenal. And I got to give Jared Banner a lot of credit, because it just feels like the way that the organization is run at the minor league level is it's run where we're ready to, kick some ass again, just to be honest with you, and I felt like for years we were too passive. We accepted failure, and that's changed. And it's not just him, but that's the first thing. The second thing is that the players themselves know baseball. They love the game. They play the game the right way. And we're good. We got good players. Having good players makes a difference. But we got good people. I mean, like, these dudes are cool, man. They're like really good guys. Owen Casey's is about as nice of a guy as you're going to meet. Cade Horton, great guy. He's so mean on the mound. You probably figure he's going to be like Randy Johnson, Jack Morris. He's just going to be grumpy, but he's not. He's a good dude. So the organization's in excellent shape right now.
Yeah, I always tell people the future looks bright. And when you look at this, you got some amazing outfielders, and some of them have won championships either last year with you guys or before with Sound Bend. It's that whole group. But, obviously the one that a lot of people are really interested in watching is Kevin Alcantara. And the thing about Kevin is he's kind of known for slow starts, and that's what happened with you guys, but he's been picking it up of late.
Man, this guy had 1 hit through the first 2 series, right? And was frustrated. I mean, you could see it, and these guys get frustrated. Who wouldn't? And then he just started hitting the cover off of the baseball. He got 10 hits in 3 days, or something crazy like that. I don't have the stats in front of me.
I got our friend Greg Hughes out of the Vines. His first 26 at bats, his slash line was 0-103-0 with a 103 OPS. His next 21 at bats, he slashed 476, 500, 810, 1.310 OPS. Just like that, Mick. Yeah.
And Greg's exactly right. I mean, it was like just some home runs, some base hits, and you could see obviously the energy was changing with him as well. When you have success, it translates. So it's good to see him get going, because I've been surprised, Hayden McGarry's off to a slow start. He's a good hitter. James Triantos had a couple good games to start the season, and then he's kind of slowed down, and I know he's a good hitter. The offense isn't where we've had it in the past, and I don't know why. I mean, some guys start slow. You're only talking about, a handful of games, but we got to get the bats going, just because I think our batting average was 6 out of 8 in the league, and it was somewhere 220, and we're normally at the top, because of all these hitting, these guys that can hit. So it's definitely not the start that I thought that they would have offensively, but they can turn it around fast.
Well, one guy that's hitting and somebody that everybody's looking at really carefully is Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw so far, he's slashing 293, 463, 561. He's got 3 home runs and 7 RBIs. So I think he's tied for the team league in home runs. Or no, he's leading it with 3. And so when you're looking at Matt, I mean, no one ever questions his ability to hit. The one thing everybody's eyeballing is how he's doing at third base. And what do you see in Mick out of Matt Shaw at third?
Well, first, make sure you guys check out my interview on the Cubs baseball channel with Matt Shaw. I released today, or I don't know when this is going to be coming out, but this week we'll say. And I talked to Matt about a variety of issues, including him playing third base. He was a shortstop in college. We saw him play second base last year in our league, in the Southern League. And now he's at third base and he's there working every day. He's good. It's not perfect yet. He's getting more comfortable over at third, but the footwork, it's excellent. The arms there. He just has the mind for it. I think he's going to be a really solid big league player.
That's all, right now, that's what we're looking for. It's that third base spot ever since Chris Bryant disappeared. That's been kind of a difficult spot to get in there. And, you also have 2 interesting catchers there, Pablo Aliendo and Moises Ballesteros. Now Pablo's got he's a little bit more of a veteran experience on that than Moises, but both of those guys just do such a good job of handling the pitching staff.
I like both guys for different reasons. Pablo was one of my favorite players. I just love him. He just shows up every day and brings it. Positive energy and funny guy. He fits in so well in the clubhouse, and the pitchers like him as well. I think he's going to be a big leaguer. I've said that from the beginning. It's just what kind of big leaguer, I've always said, well, probably like a backup, but he just keeps growing, man. And maybe he's a guy who could be like an everyday big leaguer. I wouldn't be surprised, but he receives well. He's getting better at throwing the ball. He's tough. He can hit a little bit. So, I like him. And then Ballesteros is just got really soft hands to the ball, like really good, like just kind of able to hit. He's always dangerous in the lineup. He's actually been better behind the plate than I thought, having seen him in a limited capacity last year. He's another guy. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm still kind of making up my assessment on him. I watched Pablo catch, 100 games last year. And I'm watching Ballesteros, and he's also kind of been dinged up a little bit. So I haven't seen him as much, but what I have noticed is that he can do it. Like he can do it. He's just got to get. I always saw it like with that position. It used to be you could be a little bit heavy to be back there, and I just feel like the game's changed a lot. Like you get bad knees and stuff. So he's just got to keep working on his body. Just becoming a little bit more athletic looking, just lighter on his knees. But he can play. I mean, no doubt about it. And he's another winner.
And one of the guys, one of the prospects that I always kind of feel has kind of been behind because of his age. So it's kind of like you've had this group moving up, and he's kind of like the little brother. Is James Triantos? He had a good Arizona fall league, and like you said, he kind of started out hot, but it's kind of cooled off a little bit, and that's going to happen. You're going to go through your streaks, but they have him playing second base, which I think is interesting as well.
Yeah. He had him on a panel Sunday and talked to him for a couple of minutes. And I'm like looking at him and I'm like, God, this guy's young, because you see him on the field. He plays like a grown up, he's a grown man out there, but he looks like a kid when you get him up close. I like him too. He's a hitter. He's a hitter's hitter, knows the game, plays the game. He's that's what you want, is to put a guy that's younger in there and they fail, but they're ahead of schedule. So you're right. He is kind of like that little brother, but he's a good player. He's somebody that you got to pay attention to in the lineup because, he'll pick you apart. He hits those gaps and can run. And he's another great example of what makes this Cubs organization so good. You know, you got so many good players, and he's one of them. So, like, throw him in the mix. There's probably some teams that he would be like their top guy, you know?
Right. And speaking of top guys, I mean, when you talk about Cade Horton, this was from the game the other day, I mean, he is just absolutely just continues to impress. And you're just watching the development of this pitcher, and you're wondering if this could potentially be the best, Cubs prospect since Mark Pryor.
I said it. I mean, I think he is. I don't think it's a question of. I think it prospect wise, him and Kerry Wood, Pryor and Wood were like the last two like super prospects that the Cubs had pitching wise. But a lot's changed in the business since those guys came up. And one of those things is that they were allowed to pitch, and he's really not, like he's very restricted. But if you think that it's just the Cubs that's restricting him, go read, stories about Paul Skeens, who's the Pirates' top pitching prospect. And, he's getting in for about the same type of appearances as Cade Horton, 3 1/3, 3 innings, maybe 4 innings. And it's teaching Horton how to, utilize his pitches a little bit more, just so that he can stay out there. The best I ever saw at dealing with pitch counts was Kyle Hendricks. No matter what they told him, he would always make sure that he was under it, because he wanted to throw 7 innings, 8 innings, 9 innings, right, when he was coming up. So, like, they had to give him an innings count, because he was like getting through the innings. Like he could get to the 5th inning, through the 5th inning on like 40 pitches. Sometimes like maybe efficient. Under that. Yeah, like super efficient, So Horton's having to figure out some of that as well.
Now, one guy that again, he just missed out on the top 100 list, and I saw him last year when I went to Myrtle Beach, is Michael Arias. I see, he's been in 5 games, 2-0, but he's a guy that really kind of has electric stuff, and I don't know if he's going to stay a starter or kind of move to the bullpen, or what's going to happen with him, but he's one to definitely keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten the corresponding roster move, and who knows when this is going to come out. So, I might be dead wrong, but I think he's on the fast track to be in the major leagues. I could see that happening this year. He's off to a tremendous start. He's on the 40-man roster. He's throwing strikes. He's getting outs. He makes it look easy. And the Cubs need help in the bullpen. I mean, that's plain and simple. So don't be surprised if he's not in Iowa sometime soon. And don't be surprised if he's not on the Cubs roster at the major league level before the All-Star break. That's just, and I know this is kind of crazy to say that at this point, but he's got the stuff, he's got everything that they're looking for. Plus he's on the 40-man. It makes it a lot easier to make moves. And you've seen it. I mean, pitchers getting hurt, guys getting hit. You got to go up there and throw strikes. I think he can do that. He's got good stuff. So we'll see. Maybe I'm being a little ambitious with him, but it's just the position. It's the fact that he's on the 40-man roster. And then I'm also looking at what the Cubs have and don't have at the major league level. And I could see him, if everything went perfectly, I could see him up there before July. And I would be surprised if he, without an injury now, I would be surprised if he's not in the major leagues before the season ends.
I mean, and that's the exciting thing about some of these young guys coming up, is that, for a long time, you'd see other teams with guys. I've seen, there's guys throwing now 102 miles an hour, Mick. Yeah. And so like you're looking for guys that are missing bats. And I think when you have Daniel Palencia, when you got a guy like Michael Arias, it's like easy gas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I hate how the game is right now. I hate that we're so worried about strikeouts that we forget that it's a game of outs and runs. You want to get outs and you want to have more runs than the other team, right? And so I'm probably the opposite of, I can think of a few people right now that I'm not going to say, but that, love the analytics, love talking about the analytics. Analytics are a tool, but it's a game. I learned this from Greg Maddux. You hear him talking about it now. He's public talking about it, but I mean, just behind the scenes when he would work for the Cubs, The whole object is to have one more run than the other team. And the way that you get there is you get outs. But we're so focused on strikeouts that we forget that, look, just get the outs. And then, it doesn't matter how you get them. Well, we don't want to put the ball in play. You get there faster. Yeah, but what happened is you're blowing out all these arms. Guys are hurt constantly now because they're trying to throw too hard. And your body just isn't made to sustain that. You can blame pitch clocks and everything else, but it's the style of baseball that's being played that's causing a lot of the arm injuries. And I think that what always happens in this, I've been around this game for a long time, watched it for a long time, is that it's reciprocal, and the next thing's going to be, hey, let's find guys that get outs and just get outs and have more outs than the other team, and like have quicker innings, and then have more runs and win. So
that'll be like that pendulum swinging back the other way.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. And I know that that's not going to be the Cubs' philosophy right now, but I think some of these teams are going to look at it and go, you know what? What if we just got pitchers that were really good at getting outs and preventing runs from scoring, instead of read the stories when guys get called up now. Some of them don't even put ERA in there. It's like, hey, he pitched, Crawly pitched, 50 innings and he had 79 strikeouts. Yeah, but how many freaking, runs did you give up? And then the other thing is like that I'm stealing this from what's the guy, Rizzo, the president of the Nationals, Mike Rizzo. Yeah. He had signs up that said, "I don't care how hard you threw ball four." I should get that tattooed on me, I really don't care how hard you threw ball four, give me a break.
I would get that argument with people about Dylan Maples. They would argue with me about his spin rate all the time. And I'm like, but he can't, he's walking everybody and hitting people. I mean, it's great at spinning a whole bunch, but it's not getting in the zone and it's not fooling anybody.
Yeah. I thought Dylan Maples had the ability to be a superstar, but I don't think he had the confidence to be a superstar. I think that it was right here with Dylan, and I liked him. And you're right. Like, they can quantitate it however they want to quantitate it. But when that dude was throwing that slider, it was unbelievable. It's the best slider I've ever seen. Now, with that said, Cade Horton has the same type of it's not the same slider, but it's similar in the fact that it's devastating. The difference is that Cade Horton is up here. He's a winner. He's just a bulldog, and he's able to control that slider. Like, I'm talking about, he can throw it where it looks like it's going to be a ball and it's a strike, kind of coming in. Mm-hmm. He can throw it like it's going to be a strike and then it's a ball. He can put it up. He can put it down. It's a tremendous pitch. And it's his best pitch. And the minute I saw him throw for the first time, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is why the guy is so good. But then the other thing about him that I love, so many of these pitchers are afraid to work inside. Everybody's afraid to pitch inside. Not Horton. You get too comfortable, man. He's coming in on you. He's coming in. He owns the plate when he's out on the mound. And I think that there's two things that I think he needs to improve on or develop. And then if he can do it, he could be on, let me put it like this, where he is right now, he could be in the big leagues and he's still going to be one of the Cubs' best pitchers today. Wow. Yeah, today. I'm telling you. Okay. Now I don't know, that may be coming out of the bullpen, that may be a starter. I don't know, but I'm just saying his stuff would work right now. He's working on developing a changeup, right? He's got one. He's working on developing it. I hope he sticks to it, because that will be such a neutralizing pitch for him. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is just getting ahead. Just get ahead. First pitch strikes. They're so important in the big leagues. And when he struggles like any other pitcher, that first pitch. And quite honestly, I feel like I've noticed that he's better at that this year than he was last year. But he's so good that he can work from behind. He can work ahead. He's got it all. And it's not, to me, that he's overpowering people. I mean, he throws 96, but it's the slider, and it's the fact that he gets a lot of weak contact, and and poise. Poise is part of it. But this is a tremendous athlete. This is a guy that used to be quarterback and third base and a pitcher at Oklahoma. So the Cubs have a few of those guys. Yeah. So the Cubs have a few of those guys. When I think of like drafting, talent, I always think of our guy, Gary Hughes, who's the special assistant to Jim Hendry, and a guy that near and dear to my heart and a lot of Cubs people's heart. If you ever knew Gary, you loved him. Gary went out of his way for me, and I miss him dearly. His son Sam was the cross-checker for us. Now he's with the Yankees. Great guy too. And Gary was like one of the first guys that said, hey, why don't we just draft athletes, great athletes. This is back when he was with like the Yankees in Montreal and stuff like that. Let's go get athletes. And then we'll now that they're only playing one sport, they're going to get better. Cade Horton is the textbook example of that.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Mitt, you had a couple of new people on the coaching staff, and Lance Reimel we knew from South Bend, and then Rachel Folden was working with hitting and development in Arizona and all over the minor leaguers. And, I've gotten to know Rachel over the years, and just a tremendous, tremendous hitting coach. And Lance just really kind of seems to me like he's always playing 4D chess. Have you gotten a little feel of how those guys are working with the players?
You know what? I love Lance. I mean, I know him from when he was a player. And, and him getting to learn under legendary manager Buddy Bailey. Have you had Buddy on your podcast?
Not yet. That's got to be on the list.
This is my Buddy Bailey impression. Crawly, we're trying to figure out if we got prospects or suspects over here. He would he had such a unique accent, like this Southern Virginia accent, and he's legendary at this point. I mean, you're talking about a guy who has more wins than any other manager active in baseball. So I'm glad that I saw Buddy for a second during spring training, and thought it was really cool when we did the ring ceremony that I looked in and there was Buddy, So he was supporting the players and a former manager of ours too, and it was really cool, to see like all the love that everybody had for the Smokies championship. But Lance is a really cool person, and it's exciting to see the energy that he brings. He's old school, even though you look at him and he's got the long hair and the beard, and which I think is a great look. He's old school, man. You better run it out. You better play the game the right way. I don't think that, that this day and age, and he's definitely not the type that I see really like yelling and stuff like that. Back in the day, like flipping the table, they get mad if you weren't winning and flip the food table on the guys and stuff. They don't do that anymore. He's an up and comer. And so that's exciting. And I don't know. I mean, like, as far as like, Rachel, I haven't really been, around a lot so far to really kind of see how that dynamic is working. But, like I said before, there's a lot of work to do with the team batting average being low and getting these guys going. And when you saw what Alcantara did last series, it gives you hope. And the tough thing for her is that Rick Strickland was probably the best hitting coach that we've had. I mean, like, someone said it best. They said he's trending up. We dominated with the bats with Rick, and I don't know what it is that Rick does, but there's a lot of people that have that job, and it's not their fault if the team doesn't hit. Right. I mean, right. It's up to the players to hit. That's, you're just out there, trying to give them like little tidbits and stuff. I almost look like hitting coaches as caddies, and I if I was in charge, I'd probably tell some of these, hey, look, if you can afford it, go get your own caddy, because everyone is so different on the way that they hear what it's going to take to be successful. So going back to Rick, I was just always amazed. Like, I'm seeing all these guys come and hit. I've been here a long time. It doesn't normally work like that. And then I ask him, like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm not doing anything, and I'm like, okay, whatever it is, they're hearing what he's saying. So that's, and there's so many other factors in there too, who's hurt, who's not hurt, and all that stuff. So, I'll say this about the staff. I like all of them. Like, they're really cool people, good people. And it's a great group dynamic as a whole.
Well, Mick, I appreciate you jumping on. And there is besides just the team, which is awesome, and just a ton of great prospects on there, like we've had a chance to talk about. You guys are always doing some great promotions down there, and May is chock full of stuff. May 3rd, you got Bigfoot night. You got May 4th, May the 4th be with you, Star Wars night. You got Cinco de Mayo coming up. You got, just all sorts of fun things coming up. Pirates at the Park on May 17th, halfway to Halloween, May 18th. So, there is literally something to do, literally, every Elvis night, May 31st. So it is going to be a lot of fun to go to a Tennessee Smoky game. Mick, if you can do me a favor, I know you got a new podcast out. Tell our listeners where they can find it and where they can find you on the socials.
Yeah, man. Look, at Broadcaster Mick on the socials. I post basically just, hey, here we got a show coming out. Once in a while, I'll, put some stuff out there. But I'm constantly putting shows out and content out on the Cubs baseball channel, the Cubs baseball channel on YouTube. And it's just a place where we talk Cubs baseball every day, preview games and stuff like that. So check it out and, comment. And we got Cade Horton and Matt Shaw interviews that are both out this week. So if you want to learn more about those guys, had the opportunity to bring them on, and we'll keep those going.
Well, Mick, thank you for jumping on, and I hope to see you soon, buddy.
Hey, great to see you anytime, Crawly.
This is segment 3 of season 3 of episode 34. Cubs sweep the Stros out of Wrigley. And you're listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. All right, Crawly, let's flash those standings. How are things looking?
All righty. How about this? The Cubbies are half a game behind the Milwaukee Brewers. They both have 16 wins. Milwaukee has one fewer loss, 16-8. Cubs 16-9. Cincinnati, they look good. Remember, they were my pick. I said the Reds and the Cubs were going to battle for this one. We'll see if I'm right at the end, but they're 14-11, 2.5 back. Pittsburgh at 500 at 13-13, 4 games back, and the Cardinals still in the basement, 11-14, 5.5 games back. We're shedding no tears for them.
Right. All right, Crawly, a flurry of moves, and Tommy Birch, a friend of the pod, with the first little note that got everything moving as the Iowa Cubs became Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, it got really confusing because they called up Matt Mervis and Hayden Wesniewski. So what's the corresponding move? The one that stunned fans is that Mervis was put on the team and Garrett Cooper was DFA'd. Mervis was slashing 288, 402, 606 with a 1.008 OPS in AAA. Garrett Cooper had 37 at-bats for the Cubs, slashing 270, 341, 773 with 1 home run and 6 RBIs. The reason, though, that Dustin, this move was so interesting is that Mervis was already on the 40-man roster, so you don't have to do anything there. But once you DFA'd Cooper, that opened up a 40-man roster spot. So the Cubs 40-man roster stands at 39. So you can now add a player that wasn't on that 40-man roster. The question is it going to be someone internal or external?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, right? And with the injuries, they could use any help they could get, I'm assuming, with that roster.
And remember, they picked up Julio Teheran the other day, so I'm just
maybe he's the guy if he's amped up and ready to go, and maybe he's got some reps against the Red Sox. That's where the Cubs are headed next, out to Boston.
Right, and then the next question is okay. Now Hayden Wesniewski's back, but he wasn't allowed to be back. Okay, remember he had his phenomenal appearance for the Cubs this season against the Diamondbacks on April 17th. Craig Counsell said it was the best pitching performance of the season. Well, Now because of that, when they brought him back down, he has to stay there for 15 days because he's a pitcher. It's 15 days unless he's coming in for someone that's been injured. Well, we didn't know about any injuries. The injured player turned out to be Kyle Hendricks. Now, we never heard a word about an injury to Kyle. I listened to the post game after his last start. I interviewed Sahadev Sharma, who's all over there, and we never saw him visit, like talking to the trainer, nothing. According to Megan Montemurro, Hendricks' back initially bothered him during the pregame bullpen Sunday. He felt it as the outing progressed and reported it to the Cubs post-game. Counsel said, "There's no way to prove this isn't a phantom IL stint." I mean, Dustin, I have a sore lower back every day, but with an 0-3 record and a 12 ERA, giving up 8 home runs in 4 games, I don't know, Dustin. This one smells a little fishy to me.
Yeah, I love the tweet that you put out, and I thought the same thing actually through my mind. So I guess we've been hanging out a little too much lately, but right away to Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack. My arm, it's broken. I should have stayed home and blah, blah, blah. We'll keep it PG-13, at least for right now. So, yeah, I don't know. But again, you can wake up with a balky back as you get a little bit older.
Yeah, Bruce Levine, a score insider, and he said that the Cubs are mapping out a plan for his rehab and return. He's going to throw a side session in Boston to determine where he's at physically. The final move of the day was Luke Little getting called up, another pitcher who technically had to wait 15 days unless there was an injury. Well, that turned out to be Drew Smyly, who was put on the 15-day IL with a right hip impingement. Counsel said that it had been bothering Smyly for a week, and you could see him on Sunday, Dustin. He's talking to the trainer, right? So this one's more believable that he's kind of talking to the trainer. They're having a conversation. So, and it makes sense that Little's back as Smyly was the only lefty in the pen. So you exchange Smyly for Luke Little.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, a flurry of moves. You really had to keep the pencil and paper out on this one to keep everything straight. And also, friend of the pod, Luke Little got called up.
Yeah, and so when we take a look there, the worst of it all, though, is when Cody Bellinger, we talked a little bit about this in segment 1. After the game, Bellinger got x-rays, looked negative. He's making jokes. He says he's feeling all right. But then on the Parkins and Spiegel's show on Wednesday at 670 The Score, Craig Counsell let it be known that Bellinger would be going to the IL with a right rib fracture. We found out later that day before the game that there was a CT scan, and he actually has 2 fractured ribs on his right side, and PCA was called up to take his place.
Yeah, it's a bummer. There's no doubt about that. But again, PCA's up here. Craig Counsell wasn't going to play that much, but he was in the starting lineup today. And as we talked about earlier in the pod, he made the skipper look smart for having him in at that point. And of course, PCA had a little flair when he got his first home run in Major League Baseball.
Yep, first person to have a home run for their first hit since Christopher Morel did it in 2022, Happ in 2017, and Wilson Contreras in 2016. So,
all right, so the Cubs, Crawly, are going to be boarding Air Ricketts in a little bit and heading east out to Boston to take on the Red Sox.
Yeah, for 2023, that was an abysmal season for the Red Sox. They finished with a record of 78-84 in last place in the AL East, 23 games behind the first place Orioles. The pitching was weak, and they ranked last in fielding in MLB. As bad as the season was for the Red Sox, they did manage to take 2 out of 3 from the Cubs at Wrigley Field in mid-July. The Cubs lost game 1 to the Red Sox 8-3. Kyle Hendricks gave up 5 runs. Cody Bellinger hit 2 home runs in that game. Marcus Stroman and the Cubs took game 2 10-4 behind a 6-run third inning, and the Cubs dropped the rubber match 11-5. So it was an interesting offseason for the Red Sox. They fired Chief Baseball Officer Shine Bloom in September, and Brian O'Halloran was removed as general manager. He's still with the team at the end of the season. And then they hired Cubs assistant GM Craig Breslow to take over the baseball ops. Alex Cora is in the last year of his contract, and, it just doesn't seem like things are looking good for his future. Key additions last season, the Red Sox starters were 22nd in ERA, but they only added Lucas Giolito. They also added outfielder Tyler O'Neill and infielder Vaughn Grisham. The big loss that they had was outfielder Alex Verdugo. He went to the Yankees. They also lost Chris Sale and outfielder Adam Duvall.
Yeah, and the pickup of Giolito hasn't worked out very well.
No, we talked about the Astros injuries woes, but you could argue the Red Sox have it worse. They lost Giolito for the season during spring training to get UCL surgery on his right elbow. Trevor Story is out for the season with a left shoulder surgery. First baseman Tristan Costas has a left rib back fracture. 3/5 of their opening day rotations on the IL. Brian Bello has right lat tightness. Nick Pavetta has a right elbow flexor strain, and Garrett Whitlock has a left oblique strain. So the Red Sox just wrapped up a series on the road with the surprising Cleveland Guardians, who are having a good year. They lost the first game of the series 4-1. They came back and crushed Cleveland 8-0 to even the series as Connor Wong hit 2 home runners and Rafael Devers, just off the IL, hit one as well. But in the rubber match, Boston dropped it 6-4. Cleveland jumped out to an early 5-0 lead thanks to a Jose Ramirez grand slam, and they were able to make that stick.
All right, 3 big games coming up in Boston. Game 1, Friday night, Shota Imanaga on the hill for the Northside Ball Club.
Dustin, if our listeners like good pitching matchups, you better pull up to the TV on this one because Shota Imanaga versus Cutter Crawford. Imanaga's 3-0 in 4 starts with a .84 ERA. He hasn't given up a run in his first 3 starts, but then against the Marlins, he gave up 3 runs, 2 of them earned in 6 innings. He has 21 strikeouts in 21.1 innings with only 2 walks. But he's going to be going up against Cutter Crawford. He's a 28-year-old right-hander who spent most of last season with the Red Sox. He started 23 games last season and finished with a record of 6-8 with an ERA of 4.04. But this season has been a different story. He is on fire. Unfortunately for him, the team doesn't give him any run support. He is the perfect candidate for the win being a useless stat. He started 5 games, Dustin. He has a record of 1-0 with an ERA of .66. So his ERA is less than Shota's. He has 30 strikeouts in 27.1 innings and 11 walks. In his last 3 starts against Baltimore, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, all pretty good teams.
Yeah, pretty good teams.
Crawford's only given up 1 run and struck out 18 batters in 16.2 innings. He has not given up an earned run in 3 of his 5 starts, and in the other 2 starts, he only gave up 1. Cutter's best pitch is, ironically enough, his cutter. Right? It's wicked pitch, man. And he throws a plus fastball and sweeper. The Cubs don't have many bats against him. So this is going to be a tough one for game 1, but it's going to be a good pitching matchup.
Yeah. And game 2, it looks like, not official yet, but it looks like Ben Brown will probably be getting the ball.
Yeah, that's what we kind of decided just because, Wisniewski pitched today. Poor Ben Brown, his first, appearance in Texas, he has an ERA of 32.40, but he's gotten that down now. In April, the month of April, he's appeared in 5 games. He only has an ERA of 1.02. He's got a couple starts and he's just looking really, really good. He doesn't have a win yet, but his ERA started in the 30s, is now at 3.72, and he has 18 strikeouts in 19.1 innings. He's limited the walks to 6. So after that 1 bad inning in Texas, it's been nothing but lights out.
Yeah, it'll be good to see him out there. If that's how they're going to use him, that's fine with me. I don't want to see him in that 6th inning Adbert Alzolay role that we saw yesterday with the Cubs in game number 2 of that series. I thought that was weird how they used Ben Brown the last time out. So if this is how we're going to use him, then let's use him as a starter if you're not going to put him at the back of the bullpen.
I was thinking about that, Dustin, and maybe they were using that in place of a bullpen.
Right? Yep, probably. Yep, let's put it this way. At least that's what they would tell us publicly.
Well, he's going up against Josh Winkowski. He's a 25-year-old righty who's been mostly used in the bullpen last season and started the bullpen this season, but he's in the rotation because of those injuries we talked about. He's making his 2nd start of the season against the Cubs. His first start was against the Pirates on Sunday, where he went 3.1 innings, gave up 1 run on 3 hits with 1 strikeout. The other 7 games he appeared in are all out of the bullpen. He features a cutter, sinker, and slider. He's a ground ball pitcher. The Cubs don't have a lot of bats against him. And so you're really hoping to get, make, again, like you saw with Verlander today, make him throw a lot of pitches because he's not going to be able to give you a lot of length because he's still, making that transition from the bullpen.
Yep, absolutely. But exciting. It'll be exciting to see him pitch. I'm excited to see Imanaga throw it at Fenway Park and also Ben Brown.
Yep, and don't forget Jordan Wicks, game 3 versus Tanner Houck.
Yes.
And so, the Cubs are going to be facing 3 right-handed pitchers. So I know no one's going to want to hear this, but Miles Mastrobuoni, I wonder if they're going to pull him up for having to face 3 righties.
Yeah,
but
probably good chance, right?
Right. Jordan is 1 for 2 in 5 starts this season with a 4.70 ERA. He struck out 28 batters in 23 innings with 9 walks. His last start against the Marlins was the best of the season, going 6 innings pitched, giving up 2 runs on 5 hits with 4 Ks and no walks for his first win. And his first quality start of the season, attacking hitters and not walking batters. He does that, he's going to be successful. He's going up against Tanner Houck, who's a 27-year-old righty. He's 3-2 with a 1.65 ERA. He's pitched 32.2 innings, struck out 32, and only walked 5. He started 5 games, Dustin, and has had 3 shutouts, 4 quality starts, and 2 starts were against the Guardians. He pitched a 3-hit complete game shutout against the Guardians. So the Cubs are facing 2 of the best pitchers that Boston has on their staff.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got 3+ pitchers and a sinker, slider, and split finger. They've only seen him once, so it's going to be a challenge.
All right, hot and not. I think I know who's hot. I think I know who's not, but let's see if the lists match up.
Well, Dustin, you got to keep sitting there and looking at Nico Horner. I mean, that guy is just ridiculous. 13 for his last 33 with 5 doubles, 4 RBIs. Mike Tauchman, 9 for his last 20, and that guy's a walking machine. 4 strikeouts, but 5 walks. And, Dansby Swanson starting to pick it up lately. 5 for his last 21 with a home run and 4 RBIs. So hopefully he can kind of, he's a very streaky hitter. Nick Madrigal is struggling, 2 for his last 11. Christopher Morel had the day off today. He's 3 for his last 19. He had a hit the other last night, and he's been walking a little bit. So I got a feeling he's about to bust out of it. And Michael Busch right now is 2 for 19. So he's really been struggling. He has 0 walks and 11 strikeouts in the last 7 days.
Yeah. Okay. What about when we have the Red Sox? Who do people need to look out for, Crawly?
The mighty, mighty Boston Red Sox. Dustin, they're an interesting team. And like I said, I'm trying to really get a good pulse on them right here. Rafael Devers is back, and he started out hot. He's 6 for his last 9 with a home run and 2 RBIs. You want to look for Wilyer Abreu. He's their right fielder. He's 12 for 24 with 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. A lot of the guys we're looking at, Dustin, are not like names that we're really familiar with. The right fielder, Rob Rensford, is 9 for his last 20 with a home run and 4 RBIs. So, Rafael, Wilyer, and Rob are the 3 guys that you really want to look out for.
All right. And the nots for them, who's not hitting well?
Bobby Dahlbach's their third baseman. He's 3 for his last 20. Pablo Reyes has been playing some 30s, 2 for his last 15. Jared Duran, left fielder, is 3 for his last 27. And their second baseman, Emmanuel Valdez, is 2 for his last 20. There's no guys on their lineup that are like kind of in the middle. Like, they're either all hitting like 400 or 500 or they're all hitting 100. It's really weird.
All right, prediction time, Crawly. We've got a couple of tough pitching matchups. We kind of got a marquee matchup Friday night. I'll let you go first this time. What are you thinking?
I'm going to go. The Cubs are going to take 1 out of 3. They're playing away. They're playing in Boston. They got a lot of young players that are just kind of getting their feet wet, and it's tough. The Cubs are pretty beat up. So are Boston, but that's why I'm kind of going with Boston, because they're the home team.
Yeah, that makes some sense. They've seemed to be better on the road than at home so far. I'm going to go 2 out of 3 just to be slightly different and a little more positive than you this time around. But I think it is a tough ask. But hey, that's why they play the games, and they will be a lot of fun to watch. That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to this Fly the W podcast. Follow us on the socials, Facebook, Instagram. Of course, we're on Twitter. You can email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. And you can watch us, that's right, by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, enjoy the games this weekend out at Fenway Park, and you and I will get back together Sunday or Monday to recap it for everybody.
Yep, and for all those people getting on a plane heading to Fenway, give us a listen, and thank you for being out there cheering our Cubs. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!